I got the code from the owner and tested it once, same as always. The house smelled like detergent and cat food. I did my checklist, sent the all good photo, and watched TV with the volume low so the neighbors wouldn't complain. I'd done enough overnights that I didn't romanticize it anymore. You show up, you don't touch their stuff, you keep the animal alive, you leave. This one was a little too perfect. No clutter, no family photos, just stage candles and that fake clean smell. The cat was the only thing that looked real. She kept circling my ankles like she wanted out, then she'd stop and stare down the hallway like she heard something I couldn't. I blamed the HVAC kicking on. I ate a granola bar standing at the counter so I wouldn't drop crumbs on their sofa, washed my hands twice, checked the locks again out of habit, then settled in. I texted the owner a quick update. Cat fed, litter scooped, doors locked because owners like that. They like to feel in control from whatever airport bar they're in. Around 1 a.m., the front lock beeped. Not the keypad, the deadbolt motor, like a phone unlock. I froze and checked the app the owner gave me. It still showed locked. The door opened anyway, slow, like whoever was wanting me to hear it. The TV audio felt suddenly huge even at 3. I could hear my own breathing and the little click of the lock as it finished turning. Nobody called out. No epaligi. No sleepy, shit, wrong house. Just the door making that soft, dragging sound across the threshold. The cat moved first. She flattened, then launched off the couch, nails scraping the wood. I grabbed her carrier from the closet because it was the only thing in reach that wasn't a weapon I could get blamed for using. I shoved the door open with my foot and tried to scoop her in like a football. She turned into pure rage, claws and teeth, like I was the danger. She screamed. I cursed. I fought the latch with shaking fingers until it finally caught. The carrier bucked in my hands. Footsteps came in, heavy, confident. No darang stambil, no uncertain shafe. A phone screen lit the hallway, a rectangle of cold light moving at chest height. The person didn't flip a switch. They didn't need to. That's what made my stomach drop. They weren't trying to see. They were navigating. They knew exactly where they were going. I backed into the kitchen because the kitchen gave me angles. Counter between me and them, back slider at my right, garage door to my left. I kept the cat carrier in front of me like it could stop a person. Ridiculous, but my brain had one job. Put something between you and the thing walking toward you. I tried the back slider. The latch moved. The door did not. I leaned into it, shoulder first, then both hands. Nothing. I looked down and saw metal at the bottom track, like a bar jammed in from the outside, pinning it shut. I pressed my face to the glass and saw the edge of it. Fresh, clean metal. Not rusted. Not old house. Somebody had put that there on purpose. The phone light in the hall paused, then drifted closer. The footsteps stopped again, right at the end of the hallway, like they were listening for me to cry or beg. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. My tongue felt too big for my mouth. The cat slammed herself against the carrier door, howling, and I hated that sound because it gave away exactly where I was. I glanced at the front door and finally noticed the inside thumb turn had scratches around it. Fresh tool marks, like someone had gripped it with pliers and slipped. The black finish was chewed up, then wiped down like they tried to clean it and didn't do a great job. In my head, in one clear, sick moment, I understood what I'd been too trusting to consider. My code was theater. The keypad was for show. Someone had swapped the cylinder earlier and left the outside neat, so the owner and the app would still think everything was normal. I went for the garage door next. The interior door to the garage was locked, which I'd never seen on a sit. Most people leave that open. I yanked it hard anyway. Dead. I spotted the garage panel button on the wall, slapped it, and heard the motor engage for half a second. The door lifted maybe 2 inches, then stopped like it hit an invisible wall. A little red sensor light flashed at me. New sensors. Fresh install. Someone had upgraded the garage like it mattered. It wasn't a break-in. It wasn't even an opportunist. It felt like prep, like the house had been turned into a cage and I had been scheduled as the occupant. The phone light moved again, faster now. The footsteps came down the hall like they owned the place. Anger surged up under the fear, hot and stupid. I wasn't going to get quiet and compliant and make this easy. I hit the panic button on the sitting app, even though I didn't trust it, then dialed 911 with my thumb and put it on speaker because my hands wouldn't cooperate. My voice came out thin and wrong, like I was lying. I forced it louder. I screamed the address in a 911 while I grabbed a dining chair and ran it into the front window with everything I had. Glass exploded. The sound filled the house, sharp and bright, and it felt like oxygen. The phone light jerked back. The footsteps sprinted. I heard them pivot across the entry tile, the front door slam, the deadbolt thunk, then outside. A car engine, tires, the wet squeal of fast turn. The dispatcher kept talking, asking if the suspect was still inside, telling me to stay on the line, telling me to get somewhere safe. Safe didn't exist in that house anymore. I climbed out through the broken window because the front door felt like a trap and I didn't trust any handle, any latch, any goddamn sensor. I stood on the porch barefoot with glass in my socks, the cat carrier digging into my fingers, and scanned the street like an animal looking for headlights coming back. Lights clicked on in the neighborhood. A door opened across the way and shut again. Somebody shouted, "You okay?" And I couldn't answer because my throat was a knot. I kept waiting for the car to reverse, for a silhouette to step out and finish what they'd started. Cops arrived fast and hard. 2 cruisers, floodlights, doors slamming. They didn't rush to comfort me. They saw the broken window and their posture changed immediately. One of them barked for me to put my hands up and step away from the house. I tried to explain and it came out as babble. Smart lock, app says lock, door open anyway. Someone inside, someone ran. His face stayed blank the whole time, like he'd already filed me under problem. He asked if I lived there. I said no. He asked why I was inside. I said pet sitting. He asked for proof, like I had a certificate for being terrified. They walked me back inside like I was the one who'd broken in. Flashlights swept over the clean counters, the checklist taped to the fridge, the detergent smell that suddenly made me nauseous. One officer picked up the cat carrier to check, and the cat screamed again, and I snapped at him not to open it. He stared at me like I'd insulted him and said he was just doing his job. I wanted to spit in his face. I needed him to believe me. The owner answered when they called her. I could hear her through the officer's phone, loud and pissed, insisting nobody else had access, insisting the smart lock logs would show it. She kept saying she'd only ever given the code to the sitter, like I was the weak link. Like I brought someone in for fun at 1 a.m. and then staged a window smash for attention. The officer asked me if I knew anyone who'd do this. I said no. He asked if I let anyone in earlier. I said I hadn't left the house. He asked if I'd been drinking. I hadn't. I'd been trying not to breathe. They tested the front door. The app still showed locked. The lock still made its little polite beep. Then the officer used a key to open it and it turned smooth like it belonged. That key wasn't on the ring the owner left me. That key came from somewhere else. One of the officers finally noticed the thumb-turn scratches and rubbed them with his glove. He asked the owner when the lock had been serviced. She said it hadn't. He asked if she'd changed the cylinder recently. She snapped no, then started talking fast about how expensive the lock was and how she'd know if someone touched it. Like money makes metal immune to tampering. I pointed at the back slider in the jam bar and said somebody trapped me. The officer went to look and his shoulders tightened. He tried to move the door, then crouched, then looked outside with his light. He didn't say much after that. He just told the other officer to check the perimeter and asked dispatch to keep units in the area. It was the first moment all night I felt like an adult in that room had recognized this wasn't a sitter losing it. Then the responding officer found the second key safe. He came in holding it like a dead animal, bolted under the mailbox, painted the same cheap beige as the metal post so it blended into the dark. I'd walked past that mailbox twice and never saw it. I wouldn't have. That was the point. He pried it open and pulled out a key so new it still had that bright shine. Fresh cuts, clean grooves. Behind it was a folded note, crisp like it had been printed and tucked in that day. He read it once. Read again. His face shifted from bored cop to something colder. He didn't hand it to the owner. He handed it to me. My hand shook so hard the paper crackled. Inside was a fresh key and a note. Sitter night. The first message hit my inbox while I was dumping footage off cards and chewing cold pizza over the sink. Subject line was polite. Quick question about our wedding video. Bride's name, date, venue. I remembered her because she cried during the vows and her mascara lost the fight. I figured she wanted to tease her faster. Normal client stuff. Then she wrote, "Someone sent me a link. My private footage is online. Is this you?" Screenshot attached. A thread on some sketchy forum. Her full legal name and the venue in the title, like it was an address. Under it were clip previews and a magnet link. My watermark sat in the corner of the thumbnail like a signature I couldn't scrub off. I actually laughed. Like, sure, another scam. But it wasn't asking for money. It was just there, with comments already piling up about her body, her dress, the bridal suite. And the clips weren't the clean, finished stuff I export. They were raw angles. My B-cam catching her fixing her bra strap in a hallway. Groomsman passing a flask. Shaky, ugly real. I clicked anyway. Curiosity and dread mix into a poison that makes you do dumb shit. The page loaded and my stomach dropped because I recognized the file names. My naming scheme. Date, venue abbreviation, comma, can be. Whoever uploaded it didn't even rename the archive. They just slapped her name on the thread title like a tag and let it rip. I emailed her back with the most professional version of what the fuck I could manage. Then I started sprinting through my own life like a burglar was already inside. I've shot enough weddings to know what private means to people. They'll laugh and dance in front of you because you're the vendor, not a person. They trust you with their ugly angles, their drunken speeches, the 10 minutes in the hallway where they pull a strap back into place and breathe. My raw files are full of that. I keep them locked down on drives that don't go online unless I'm backing up. I don't even upload RAWs for clients. They get the highlight, the ceremony, the clean export. So seeing raw clips online, chopped and titled with her name, felt like someone reached into my filing cabinet and scattered it on the street. Passwords first. Everything. Email, client gallery, socials, bank. Two-factor everywhere. Then I yanked my editing laptop off the desk, killed the Wi-Fi, and wiped it. Full nuke, reinstall, the whole ritual you do when you're trying to convince yourself you still have control. I called the venue to warn them, not to save my reputation, because if someone had raw bridal suite footage labeled with a full name, that meant somebody had grabbed it from somewhere. Maybe their Wi-Fi, maybe a staff laptop, maybe a coordinator who borrowed the files. The manager sounded annoyed, like I'd called about chair covers. She said they take privacy seriously and asked if I was sure it wasn't a misunderstanding. I told her my watermark was on it. She promised she'd look into it. I hung up and stared at my wall until my eyes burned. The bride kept emailing me every half hour like she was drowning. People are sending it to my mother. My husband is freaking out. Can you get taken down? Like I had a delete button for the internet. I reported the thread, filled out forms, sent takedown requests into black holes, and watched more mirrors pop up anyway. Every time I hit send, I felt smaller because I couldn't fix the thing I was partly responsible for. My watermark made it look like I delivered it myself. The threats started that night. Burner emails with dumb subject lines like, "Hey, smiley face," and "just checking." Sometimes no text, just attachments. The first one was a photo from my personal phone gallery. My mom's kitchen, the stupid backsplash she loved. Not on my work machine, not in a client folder, just my camera roll. Next email had my bathroom mirror. Another had a screenshot of my bank app open. They didn't have to drain me to ruin me. They just had to show they could. I kept trying to explain it to myself as a remote hack, some spyware, some credential leak. But the angles didn't feel like a hacker. They felt like a person standing close enough to catch reflections, close enough to grab a shot when I wasn't paying attention. Like someone had been physically near my devices. I tore the place apart, reset my phone, Svapid scene. Logged out of everything. Crawled under my car looking for a tracker, because that's what your brain does now. It runs through headlines until you're shaking in a parking lot like a junkie. Then they sent the real weapon, a video file with my name in it. It was me in my studio, sitting where I sit when I record quick thanks for booking clips. Same shelves, same phone panels, same cheap plant. And I looked into the camera and confessed to planting cameras at weddings. Said I liked it. Said I saved private moments. Calm, steady, like it was a proud little admission. The voice matched. My voice, the nasal thing I hate, the little breath I take before certain words. The mouth matched too. Not the sloppy deep fake stuff where the face floats. This was clean enough to convince a tired mom on Facebook. By morning, it was everywhere that mattered in my world. Local vendor groups, bridal pages, stories with captions like "This your video guy?" People tag venues. People tag past clients. The comments didn't even feel like they were about me. They felt like people finally got permission to unload every suspicion they'd ever had about a guy with cameras near women. Old clients started combing through their own footage like it was evidence. One guy demanded to know if I'd ever been alone in their bridal suite. Another emailed me screenshots of my Instagram and said he was forwarding everything to law enforcement. I got kicked from a local vendor group I'd been in for years. No warning, just removed like I was a stain. A makeup artist I used to grab coffee with unfollowed me and posted a vague story about protecting women. I wanted to reply, to scream, but anything I typed just looked like guilt to people who already decided. My phone turned into a siren. Angry calls, refund demands, DMs calling me a predator. One venue canceled me with a stiff corporate email. One client demanded their money back and said she'd warn everyone. I watched deposits evaporate in real time like blood loss. I tried to fight it with proof, timestamps, invoices, logs, a statement. Nobody cared. The fake clip was simple. My explanation sounded like excuses, and the deep fake had my face, my voice, my studio behind it. It slid into people's brains like a key. I went to the police with a folder like an idiot. The officer at the desk kept his tone even, but his questions told me everything. Have you ever recorded without consent? Have you ever installed hidden cameras? Do you have a history? I wanted to scream that if I was doing that, why would I watermark it with my business name? Instead, I swallowed it and watched him type. 2 days later, a package showed up on my porch. No return address. No pousti. Somebody walked it up like they were dropping off takeout. Inside was one of my SD cards, snapped clean in half. I recognized the sticker because I label everything like a psycho. The broken plastic was taped to a printed screenshot of my front door from a doorbell camera angle. Wide, warped, time-stamped. I don't own a doorbell camera. Never have. Under was a list. Next weekend's weddings in my area. Venues, times, coordinator names. And beside each one, my name, like I was on a schedule. Like I was expected. That's when it clicked. They weren't just stealing files. They were building a version of me. A predator version. One they could drop into any wedding, any rumor chain, and people would fill in the rest without thinking. I slept with my phone under my pillow like a teenager. Every vibration felt like a punch. I kept imagining some creep sitting in a car outside my building, leeching Wi-Fi, watching my windows, waiting for me to leave my phone on a table. I started taping over my laptop camera. I started turning my phone face down even when I was alone. I stopped going to my mom's place because I couldn't stand the idea of dragging this shit to her door. I didn't go to those gigs. I couldn't. I pictured walking into a bridal suite and every face turning hard, every phone lifting, someone screaming, or me not going and the deep fake me showing up anyway. Digitally, attached to some new clip. Either way, I lose. So I did the most pathetic thing I've ever done. I drove to the police station and sat in my car in the parking lot all day. Engine running because it was cold and because I wanted the option of both. Parked where the cameras could see me. Phone in my lap like it was a gun. Every notification made my throat close. I kept thinking about walking inside and telling them to put me in a holding cell, just so I'd have witnesses. That's how twisted it got. I wanted fluorescent lights and paperwork and a bored cop who could say, yeah, he was here, because my own reality didn't feel admissible anymore. I watched people come and go, watched a cruiser roll out, watched my hands shake on the steering wheel until my knuckles went white, and I still didn't feel safe. I waited for the call that someone had used my face to ruin somebody else's life again. That night, a new review hit my page. 5 stars, no text, posted from an account named Raw Files. People print dumb stuff, vacations, dogs, screenshots of memes. That night, I was alone in the photo lab, sweating under those cheap buzzing lights, trying to keep the printer from jamming while the self-serve kiosk kept chiming like it had a personality. My hands were dry and cracked from wiping fingerprints off glossy paper, and I'd already done 3 reprints for a guy who kept saying the colors looked sad. Then a customer submitted a family album order. 300 prints, same day rush, paid cash. No email, no account, no phone number, just a receipt number on the screen and a thick wad of bills left at the front like a bribe. The thumbnails looked normal until the machine started spitting them out and I actually saw what I was stacking. It wasn't family. It was repetition. Women from behind, parking lots, stairwells, bus stops. Same angles, same distance, same time stamps packed in tight blocks like somebody was working shifts. Different women, different places, but the camera sat at the same height every time, like the person holding it had a favorite stance and a favorite way to follow without getting caught. I kept flipping because my brain wanted it to be harmless. You see ugly stuff in photo labs. People print affairs. People print bruises. People print pictures of dead relatives and hand them to you like it's nothing. But this wasn't messy human life. This was careful. The next prints were close-ups, license plates dead center, sharp enough to read without squinting. A mailbox name, a building buzzer panel with unit numbers and greasy fingerprints. Door locks shot straight on, so you could see the keyway like a mouth. Then a peephole camera reflection, curved and shiny, catching the photographer's face half in the glass. Middle-aged, calm, smiling like he was proud. Not an accidental caught-on-camera look. A deliberate, satisfied smile, like he knew nobody could touch him. My stomach went tight, like my body was trying to fold around itself. Then the couch photo came out, and everything in me dropped. A woman asleep on a couch, mouth open, hair stuck to her cheek. The angle was inside the room, not through a window, close enough you could see Lynn on the cushion. In the lower corner, a hand held a strip of tape near her lips like someone testing distance, like someone practicing. No blood, no struggle, no loud violence you can point at and say, that's the moment. Just that quiet, casual setup, frozen like a trophy. I stopped the printer hard enough to make it beep at me like I'd done something wrong. I hit cancel on the kiosk. I pulled the SD card from the slot and it popped free. It had a piece of tape on it labeled weddings in Sharpie, like camouflage, like a joke. My hand shook. I didn't feel brave. I felt contaminated, like I grabbed something poisonous barehanded. I didn't know the right procedure I just found someone's stalking archive at work. I'm not a cop. I'm not trained for this. I'm the person who tells customers their phone photos will look better if they stop screenshotting screenshots. But I also knew if I handed that card back and pretended I didn't see anything, I'd be helping whatever came next. So I jammed the card into the store computer and copied a handful of files into a folder on the desktop. The plates, the locks, the peephole smile, the couch shot. I renamed them fast with timestamps, just enough so I could point to something later and not sound like a crazy person making it up. Then I went to call the manager. He answered, already annoyed, like I'd interrupted him doing nothing. I told him it was a rush order full of stalking photos and there was a sleeping woman with tape near her mouth. I told him I stopped the job, pulled the SD card, saved copies for the police. He didn't ask what the photos showed. He didn't ask if anyone was in danger. He told me to finish the order and stop touching customer property. I walked back into the lab and the kiosk screen had changed while I was gone. Not the normal menu, not the order list, Just a black screen with big white text. Print. Do not save. The printer kicked on by itself. Paper fed. Photos dropped into the tray like the machine had decided my hands didn't matter. I stabbed at the touch screen. Nothing. Customer mode shouldn't do that. Those kiosks can barely connect to Wi-Fi without throwing an error, and now it was acting like it had a brain and a leash. I pulled the paper tray out to force a jam. The printer groaned and still tried to run, rollers grinding paper into itself, stubborn like it was obeying someone else. My manager showed up fast, sweaty and angry like he'd been running. The first thing he did wasn't look at the prints. He looked up at the camera dome above the lab gate. He kept glancing at it like he was waiting for permission, like there was a line he couldn't cross until someone watching said it was fine. Then he looked at me and told me to put the tray back, finish the order, and shut up. He kept his body angled so customers couldn't see the kiosk screen from the aisle. I refused. I told him I wasn't printing that shit. I told him I'd already saved files and I was calling security and the cops. He stepped closer until my back at the counter. I could smell coffee and sweat on his breath. He said I didn't understand how things worked and I was about to get myself fired for stealing. Then he grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt and tried to pry the SD card from my hand. It wasn't frantic. It was controlled, practiced like he'd done it before to people who got ideas. I yanked back and slammed the lab gate down on his shoulder because it was the only thing between us. Metal hit with a wet thud. He made this ugly choking sound and stumbled, clutching himself, eyes full of hate like I'd ruined his whole plan. I didn't wait for the next move. I ran into the front aisle with the card in my pocket, yelling for security loud enough to turn heads. People stared like I was losing my mind. A couple customers lifted their phones like it was entertainment. I didn't care. I needed witnesses. I needed the store to stop pretending this was just another bad shift. Security lumbered over with that board, annoyed face until I shoved a print at him. License plate, door lock, couch shot, and watched his expression flicker. The manager followed, holding his shoulder, telling everyone I assaulted him and stole customer media. He kept repeating customer property like it was magic words that erased the tape. He didn't mention the kiosk message. He didn't mention the printer restarting on its own. I kept pointing back toward the lab like an idiot, like pointing fixes anything. Cops showed up and took my statement in that cramped customer service nook where the lights make everyone look guilty. I handed over the SD card. I told them what I saw and that I copied files to the store computer because I didn't trust the card to stay intact. The manager told them I was stealing and making up stories to cover it. He sounded calm, rehearsed, like he'd practiced that tone for emergencies. One cop walked back to the kiosk with a manager and a key while I sat there clenching my hands so tight my nails dug into my palms. They came back and the cop said the kiosk had been factory reset. No order history, no files. When they checked the SD card, it was basically empty, like it had been wiped clean. I said that was impossible. I said I pulled it straight from the machine. I asked them to look at the store computer where I'd saved the folder. The manager said they'd need a warrant for store systems and that I never saved anything anyway. The cops didn't push. They wrote down my statement, told me they'd follow up, and left like they were done with a noise complaint. After they left, I tried to go back to the lab computer to show the folder myself, desperate and shaking. The manager blocked me and told me to clock out. Security stood there and didn't move. I walked out smelling like printer heat and chemicals, ears still ringing from that kiosk chime, and I sat in my car staring at the steering wheel until my hand stopped trembling. The next day, my manager acted like nothing happened. Corporate never called. Nobody reviewed footage. Nobody asked me to show where I'd save the files. The folder on the lab computer was gone the first time I got near it. And the recycle bin had been emptied too, like someone swept my whole night into the trash and washed the floor after. I got a final warning for physical escalation. Security started hovering when I worked the lab, not because of the stalking photos, but because I was a liability. I went home every night, checking my locks twice and staring at my peephole like it could blink back. 2 weeks later, a new print order came in under my name. My actual name, spelled right. My stomach turned before I even opened it. The first image was my face, shot through my own apartment window. I didn't remember anyone outside. I didn't hear anything that night. But there it was, the reflection of my lamp in the glass, me inside, unaware, caught in the same kind of frame I'd seen 100 times in that order. Under it, printed in neat font, "Nice job, hero,"